all of these through HobbyLink Japan, so the link, as usual, including upcoming pre-orders, are down there in the description. So hovering around the bottom of the list in the 20th position without the ability of flight is the Delanza. And you might be like, well, which one? And well, 2 out of the 3 of them. That is the Delanza in green, the standard Delanza / Lotus Delanza, as well as the Delanza in black, which is the Delanza Sol. Both of these kits are identical besides their color and the weapon loadout, but when it comes to the ranking, they are identical. So first up, when it comes to the cons to these particular kits, these are based on the classic Dom from the original Mobile Suit Gundam, which means they are extremely bulky. This does make them a little bit hard to pose, a little bit awkward, and they do have issues with clashing armor parts. On top of that, we do have large seams up the sides of the legs. We don't have any alternate hands, so if you're only holding the one weapon with these, you do have that fairly nasty looking open block hand. Finally, and to me probably one of the most critical aspects about the cons with these kits is the fact that we have a big old sticker for one of the most important parts of the kit, and that is the head and the face. So it does mean out of box these could look a lot better. We don't have the nice layering and buildup of parts we do see on some of the kits that are further up the list, but moving over to the pros, this is not the worst kit around, or should I say these are not the worst kits around. These are only on the bottom of the list when it comes to the absolute ridiculous standards of the high-grade Witch from Mercury line. Otherwise, they're absolutely fantastic, rock solid, look incredible, and if you want an even more over-the-top, serious-looking version, that's the Delanza Sol. Now, I didn't review that one because it's exactly the same as the Delanza, so essentially, just go for the color that you like. These got a silver tier ranking from me, so they're very nice kits, but you can do a whole lot better with this absolutely phenomenal line of gunpla. At number 19, it's Nutsack Head itself, Guel's Delanza. So this is essentially just like what we would have seen, and I would have thrown it into number 20 as well, but we wouldn't have had a number 20 if I didn't put this as number 19, so that is literally the only reason. That and the fact that this kit does come with a little bit of a better loadout, it has better shelf presence due to its over-the-top color scheme, and there are some new elements of armor etc. on this version to make it the tricked out, over-the-top Guel's version, but besides that it is the same issues, same positive aspects. But if you throw this up on a shelf with a little bit of blue or black light, its weapons will glow up and it does look ridiculously cool, even though it does have a nutsack for a head. So coming in the 18th position is the Humble Demi-Trainer. When it comes to the over-the-top ridiculous mecha that we've got in the Witch from Mercury, this is definitely at the very bottom, both lore-wise and when it comes to the model kit too. Now don't let that put you off. Underneath its basic appearance, this is a fully tricked out, awesome high-grade kit. There really isn't any real down points to it. The ankles can be a little bit awkward, of course it is very plain to look at, but it's got great articulation and engineering. Now, when it comes to the accessories in here, there's a couple of things, but not a whole lot. What I feel is quintessential to this release right here is the sold separate option set. This gives you hands, weapon options, and all of which are pretty cool, but they do not come inside of the box. This is awesome. However, because if you do grab a couple of boxes of the Demi-Trainer, 2 or 3, you can distribute the contents of the options across all of those. We also do have a little bit of an option inside of the box. That means you can color the cockpits on these differently, but those cockpit colors are stickers only, not plastic pieces. Also, the green parts on this in its face do glow under blacklight, which is a cool addition. But yeah, it is the basic overall look and presence of this particular mech that does lay it down so low on this list. Just remember, it may look plain at first glance, but this is a fully featured gold tier plastic model mecha. So coming in at the 17th position is the pair of Begears. So these are the bottom of the barrel when it does come to grassly suits in the high grade Witch from Mercury line. Now these are great. I need to preface all of the kits that are in the lower end of this ranking. They are good, just not as good as what we'll be seeing further up. First up, when it comes to the cons on these particular kits, that would be the stickers. These have a lot of stickers in the box, some of which are right up on the head like we see on both of them. We've got a lot of green ones all over the Begear Pente, and we've got lots of purple and color correcting ones all over the Begear Bayu. As for another con, the heels on these are a little bit loose. We've got a bit of a funky C-clip down there that tends to pop off every now and then. But that is it when it comes to the negative aspects. The Begear Pente and the Begear Bayu are ridiculously unique, cool looking suits. At their core, both of these are identical, but of course, like we would have seen with the Delancers, the difference between the two is the color of the mecha, as well as the weapon loadouts. So when it comes to the Begear Bayu, this is in white on purple, and when it comes to the loadout here, this is extremely unique. We've got some massive wing binders around back, a pair of arm-mounted blades, and some funny remote use balls. The Begear Pente on the other side is a little bit more of a defensive unit. We've got a big, massive cannon, as well as one of the coolest Gundam shields I have ever seen. It does have quite a few green stickers on it, but it has some cool gimmicks. It can spread out and open up in a really cool kind of way. Overall, the quality of these kits is top-notch as you'd expect. The amount of layering and color separation may not be as fancy as what we're going to see later on, but as far as high grades go, it is spectacular. The posability, the overall structure of the finished model kit as well are top-notch for both of these. Looking finger-licking good in the 16th position is the Gundam Rubris Thorn, the first of the Rubris twins. So I'm going to get it right out of the way straight away because someone's going to ask in the comments at some point, what is with the Rubris? It's basically pronounced like that in Japanese. I watched it in Japanese, and that's it, really. There's never been any real explanation for why it's romanized as this, so until there is, I'm sticking with Rubris. Visually, this is one of the most unique looking Gundams around. It's so small and essentially does look like a chicken. It's got chicken legs, long arms like wings, and it is a toasty, deliciously cooked shade of brown. But all jokes aside, this is still a really cool idea for a Gundam. There's no real use for a mecha having, normal human-sized legs, and this thing's covered in thrusters instead, which kind of makes a little bit more sense. A better center of gravity. Overall, it does look really cool. The shell units on this, I guess this is the only real con here. The shell units don't look as good as some of the Gundams we'll be seeing up further in the list. They're very basic with basic clear plastic on top with some simple stickers inside that do detract a little bit from the overall look. We do have some stickers as well in the chest, which does make this a little less fancy feeling and looking than the Ur. Overall though, we do have some ridiculously cool angles, thrusters everywhere, and the design is sharp and nice. When it comes to the accessories, we've got every base loaded from melee to mid-range to long-range. And on top of that, this is one of the first of the kits we've seen that actually has some alternate hands. And not just the one, we've got two, which is very nice. All of the weapons do work really well. The phase array cannon does rely a little bit on stickers when it is opened up, but everything works here perfectly. When it does come to the articulation and the build quality, this is rock solid and the articulation is incredible. We could have a little bit more in the chicken feet, but overall it is still a fantastic Gundam kit. But like I mentioned, not quite as good as what we'll be seeing further up the list. And what can I say, this is a kit that does look like it could be great friends with Core Gundam. 5 deep into the list now, and at number 15 is the Gundam Rubris Ur. The only reason this one got a bit of a leg up on its sibling Mobile Suit the Thorn is because, it's got some serious points to its design, but otherwise, when it comes to the overall quality and build, this is essentially identical. It just looks like a more heavy-duty, armored, over-the-top, serious Gundam. And for me, Mobile Suits always get more points for having a Gatling gun. Everything that I would have said about the Thorn is here. It may not have as many angles, it may not have as many thrusters, but this has a lot of heavy-duty armor and a really cool greeny blue on white color scheme. We do have the issue again with the not very fancy of a core unit in this. It's just some basic clear plastic over some stickers, which doesn't look that premium. However, if you do manage to kind of recess or almost carve the stickers onto the plastic underneath, you can get a little bit of a three-dimensional vibe that makes it look a little bit better. When we jump on into the accessories, this is exactly the same as we saw with the Thorn. It's pretty much the same loadout, just re-envisioned and moved around a little bit. We've got the hands in here too, which is an absolute treat for poses, especially because it really does just hold its weapons with one hand. And we do have the phased array cannon round back, again relying a little bit on stickers, but everything works out really well, and there's some great choices in here. Finally, when it does come to the articulation and the build, this is rock solid yet again with some great articulation. Overall, it is a kick-ass kit and a pretty cool Gundam, but when it does come to G-Witch Gundams, you can do a whole lot better, as we'll see as we move on through these kits. Moving now into the 14th position, and we're moving into the platinum tier level of Gundam Witch from Mercury kits. And this right here, once again, is the Demi Trainer, and not just any Demi Trainer. This is Choo Choo's personal custom Demi Trainer. Now just think about the fact that this is in the 14th position, and it is platinum tier. That means there are 13 more kits, 14 kits in total, which are platinum tier and above from Gundam the Witch from Mercury. The line is just that good. Once again, looks can be deceiving here with Choo Choo's Demi Trainer because this is more than meets the eye once again. Now I'll throw out the only real con I find with this kit, and that is that it does have limited ankles just like the standard Demi Trainer, but everything about this is absolutely stunning. Overall, the looks at first glance might look a little bit on the basic side, but not quite as basic as what we saw with the standard Demi Trainer. This looks so cool. We've got some extra armor here, there, and everywhere. It's got an asymmetrical layout, thrusters that slide, rotate, etc. on the sides of the legs, and it's the head on this that drives me wild. The detail is phenomenal. It almost looks like a funny face, and we do have a nice glowing aspect in the middle for the sensor, which once again glows under UV or black light. When it comes to the accessories in here, once again, outdoing the standard Demi Trainer. We've got two sets of hands, so that does mean we do have some non-holding hands in here, which is always a treat. And the main event here is that massive rifle. Now, sometimes when you've got mounted rifles that are also held with the hands, they can be extremely hard to pose. Everything here is just so well thought out and moves so smoothly. It's so intuitive and just feels right. It's always so perfectly posable, no matter what way it's holding the rifle, and that is awesome. On top of that then, when it comes to the articulation, this is rock solid yet again, has great articulation besides the ankles, and we do have a nice locking mechanism in the waist to make sure you can get lots of upper body movement out of this. And I think one of the aspects that really does show just how much is hidden inside of this that you can't see from the outside perspective, this thing has a neck. I never expected it would have a neck. Next up at number 13 is the Hydra, and once again this is a combo pair slapped into the one position. There's two versions of the Hydra available, that's the standard green Hydra as well as the purple Hydra Sturm. Once again, these are identical to their core, besides the fact that they come with different loadouts and they are different colors, but otherwise they are the same mobile suit. The green version, as you can tell from that antenna on its head, is for using at the School of Technology, and the other version, the Hydra Sturm, is the actual military use version. Once again, these are a pair of Grassley suits, so just like the Begiers we would have seen before, these do have the typical aspects here that we would have seen. The same sort of curved designs as well as a lot of purple stickers. When it comes to the cons, the only thing I could really complain about these kits is the use of purple stickers, which isn't really all that much, it's just on the shoulders a little bit. The ankles are a little bit funny on these, but that is what their design is like, so I suppose it's more of a feature than a flaw. Actually, wait a minute, there is one thing I would complain a little bit, and I found this post-review of both of them, so I didn't mention it in the review, and that is the waist joint inside of their torso is very likely to pop out, so a lot of the time when I pick these up, their whole upper body is just kind of flopping around all marionette style, so that can happen. Doesn't happen all the time, but it can. So it's worth keeping an eye out for. Design-wise, these absolutely blow the Begier Beu and the Begier Pente away. I would have assumed straight away that they were pretty much the same kit, that they're just based off of the parts, that Bandai would have just recycled a bunch of parts and built onto them. That is not the case. These are built brand new from the ground up and are a far superior kit. The detailing is better, the overall look is better, and they do feel better. These, without a single doubt, are as good as grunt kits get. Now when it comes to what is inside of the box with the standard Hydra, we get a very basic backpack as well as dual-wielding shield-based weapons. Actually, everything on this is pretty much a shield. In one hand we have a standard shield. This can be used on the wrist or can actually bend forward over the fist entirely. In the right hand, what we've got is the combination of a pistol, a shield, and a lance. So it has a lance for those short melee attacks, the pistol for those mid-range, and of course the blocking shield on top. Once again, the only down point here is the fact that we do not have any alternate hands in here for use when nothing is being held. Jumping on over to what comes inside the box with the Sturm, we get a little bit more when it comes to the arsenal, and this is a little bit more normal when it comes to mecha weapons. We've got a standard beam saber, a pretty standard beam rifle, a nice shield, and a shoulder cannon for a round back. On top of that, we do have a thruster system or unit which attaches into the rear skirting armor. When it comes to the build and articulation on both of these, like I mentioned, you can have some issues with the joint that is in the abdomen. Be careful with that, and these are absolutely perfect and will slay any pose and are rock solid. That, combined with the very unique feet and the overall unique design, means you will get great poses, but the forward and back at the what I only assume you can call an ankle could be a little bit better, but on the whole, these are some ridiculously awesome grunts. If you've ever wanted a little drop of armored core in your Gundam, then this is what you're looking for. Number 12, this is the Zowort, just about outclassing the Hydra when it comes to the best of the best G-Witch grunt suits. These are platinum tier and absolutely fantastic. Now, if I was going to throw in one con about these, it's barely even a con, really, and that is, these are the only kits from the entire line that do not have the standard backpack adapter, so that means they're not compatible with other high-grade backpacks. So that's the only real down point. Now, once again, I am throwing the two versions in together. The standard Zowort, which is the lighter armored and lighter equipped, super thrusterified version of the Zowort, and we have the Zowort Heavy, in a darker militaristic green with heavy weapons and no thrusters, and a little bit more heavy armor. Essentially though, both are identical at their core, it's just it depends on what you want. Do you want a lighter version with thrusters or a heavier version with weapons? Both of which absolutely phenomenal. Visually, like I mentioned, these have a little bit of an armored core vibe. One of the designers for the Witch from Mercury who worked on these particular mobile suits did do some armored core designs, and that really does show in the wide upper bodies, narrow waist, and those elongated legs and arms. For those of you who are into classic Gundams, these definitely do bring a little bit of the Jegan vibe. But one thing you can definitely say is these look incredible. These are one of the most militaristic looking grunts I've ever seen when it comes to gunpla. These would look great in a lot of subdued militaristic tones if you're going to paint them, like greys, silvers, and variants of the greens that they already have. So when it comes to the Zowarts, first off is the standard one. This is the one, the lighter green with the thrusters and the pointy antenna. This is a light mobile suit, so it is a little bit light on the equipment too. Now the only other con I would say inside this box is it would have been nice to have some widespread hands. All we have in here is a small beam rifle as well as the beam sabers. The coolest aspect about the beam sabers is they're stored on the forearm, and there is a bit of a hidden gimmick in here you can actually access during the build by just cutting a couple of tabs, which allows the forearm to open like so. When it comes to the Zowort Heavy, we've got a lot more heavy equipment inside of the box. We've got the same beam sabers as before, we've got an elongated version of the beam rifle, and we do have some heavy weaponry for mounting round back, once again, armored core style. Once again, the build and the articulation on both of these is incredible. You get some great poses out of them, which really does match very nicely with the ridiculously elongated slender limbs. Now, just like we kind of would have seen with the Demi Trainer, there is an option set out there for using with this. This is known as the Tikbalang, and this is essentially a mobile platform for them to fly around on or go, well, on the underside of, also flying around. This is a really cool kit. I never actually did do a review of it, but I do recommend it a lot. It just looks so cool with your Zowort mounted up top. absolutely disappointing in the anime being a glorified delivery man, the Demi binding does not disappoint when it comes to its plastic equivalent. At number 11, this is the final form of the Demi trainer. Across the G-Witch line, one of the most fun aspects was seeing all the different mobile suit manufacturers and then seeing the technology from those manufacturers getting better and better, but none is quite as apparent as with the Demi trainer line. Going from the super basic Demi trainer to Choo Choo's custom Demi trainer all the way to the Demi barding is quite the Pokemon-esque evolution. This kit is absolutely phenomenally awesome. And even though it has gotten better in a whole lot of different ways compared to the Demis that came before it, the biggest and most awesome aspect is the fact that it actually has some ankles this time. Visually, this looks so cool. They took the typical Demi trainer look and dialed it to 11. We've got massive thrusters on the legs, big wide shoulders made look even bigger by the unit round back. And if there was to be some kind of con visually, there is some thruster stickers in here that could look a little bit cooler, as well as some massive stickers on the top of the shoulders. These aren't really all that noticeable when you're standing right beside it, but they are there. When it comes to the accessories in here, for the most part these are fairly normal, but with one really awesome aspect. We've got a standard set of beam sabers, which is normal. We've got the beam rifle plus, which is a fairly standard rifle too, does what it needs to do and looks cool doing it. But what really is so awesome about this is the Bowery pack round back. We've got thrusters, we've got cannons. This thing detaches and flies around and can be piloted by another pilot and be used as a wire attached supplementary unit. How cool is that? How come we did not see that in the anime? That is such a disappointment. They had this whole idea of a detachable unit round back that can give the Demi barding support, cover, fire, and they never used it. It does look awesome out of the box though, so at least you do have that option with the kit. Once again, like we've seen with this entire line, the articulation on this is stupendously good. Now, I did find a little bit of issues with the elbows on mine. I'm not sure if that was my own issue or something intrinsically wrong with the kit. It's nothing that really big of a deal and nothing to detract points from it. The overall posability and structural integrity is impressive. This may have been an absolutely underutilized mobile suit in the anime, but it will be a super awesome addition to any plastic model collection. Highly recommended. Well, I suppose everything here is. Moving on. Finally into the second half of the list, and this is where things get super serious. The kits from here on out are the best of gunpla that has ever existed, which is mad cool. And the weird thing is we're starting off with the Gundvolva. In the anime, this just flew around in a group, not really doing anything, just in the one pose, shooting. It's just a glorified marionette with a gun, a glorified bit stave with a gun. But when it comes to the actual model kit itself, this thing is incredible. Literally better than the Gundams that controlled it. So when it comes to the glory of the Gundvolva, where do I even start? I guess with the usual spot, with the aesthetics. This is ridiculously gorgeous. This is essentially the same kind of design as what we would have seen with the Ruber's Ur and the Ruber's Thorn, especially the Ur. It's almost like a slimmed down version. Well, I guess it is because it's also based on the same mobile suit core, being the standard Ruber's. This in essence is an awesome looking Gundam, even though in the actual lore and in the series it is just a drone. The color scheme is nice and subdued. The design is extremely nice with some nice geometric shapes, and the legs on this are so nicely designed with a cool sliding gimmick in the knee, nicer than a lot of legs we would have seen on other kits in this entire line. It is so cool. When it comes to the shell unit in the chest and the forehead, these are simple but not quite as simple as what we would have seen on the Ur and Thorn, so this is an upgrade compared to those, even though in universe it's meant to be, well, their thrall. The accessories contained inside of this box is the standard Gundam loadout of sword, board, and beam rifle. We've got a fairly standard set of beam sabers in here, a nice compact beam rifle which does have a removable magazine, which is always a cool feature, and the shield in here is nicely detailed and even more detailed than we would have seen on the Ur and Thorn again. Sadly, there is no expressive hands included in here, just the standard holding hands, and when it does come to the overall articulation, this is fantastic. Like I mentioned, the legs on this look so cool. The design does have a little bit of a hitch, which is some tight heels around back of the feet. Be careful with those and you will have an absolutely awesome time posing this ridiculously awesome design. Once again, super underutilized in the show, But when it comes to the actual plastic model kit, this is one badass Gundam. So going from a not Gundam that looks like a Gundam to a Gundam that looks like a not Gundam. This, in the number 9th position, is Gundam Ferract, one of the most ridiculous looking designs we have in this show. Looking like something from the 80s Zeta Gundam style mixed a little bit with the Armored Core Pale Technologies vibe, this is as high as Pale Technologies have gotten on this list. Aesthetically, this looks like nothing else. It's a dark Gundam that doesn't even look like a Gundam at all. Elongated limbs, a huge backpack that almost harnesses some of the Gundam 00 Riser feeling into it. I've seen multiple customs of people using this backpack on Gundams, and it looks incredible, and it looks incredible on this kit too. It's absolutely covered in thrusters. The shell units on this kit, even though they do have stickers underneath, have been tastefully recreated with some nice smoky clear parts on top. Almost insectoid looking, like I said, this looks like nothing else from G-Witch. It is ridiculously cool. The only real con I can actually mention about this is the C-clips on the legs, especially the toe section and the heels, is a little bit on the weak side, so when you are standing it up, they can kind of bow upwards ever so slightly, but in the air, this does not have those issues. When it comes to the accessories in here, it is a little bit of a simple loadout. We've got the giant sniper rifle known as the Beam Arquebus, as well as a pair of beam sabers. Thankfully, we do have a nice widespread left hand, which works so perfectly with that Beam Arquebus in nice shooting poses. One of the most awesome aspects about this is the storage of the beam sabers, which, just like we would have seen on the Zowart, is a fold-out segment inside of the forearm where they can be stored. When it comes to the articulation on this kit, this really does go beyond the normal bipedal humanoid articulation we do see on most Gundam model kits. In the best possible way, the legs can split down at the lower segment to move outwards in a kind of nice segmented sort of way, same as the upper arms, and this can get really deep into over-the-top poses. That combined with that ridiculously cool backpack, the overall insectoid look, and all of the thrusters everywhere means that this is an absolute poser's dream. The build is rock solid in that usual G-Witch kind of way, and like I mentioned, the only real down point is the weak C-clips in the feed, which don't really matter when you get this up in the air. So yeah, if you're looking for some G-Witch kits and you love the Pale Technologies vibe, then this is the best you can do. I was almost going to say if you want the weirdest and most over-the-top G-Witch kit, this is the one to go for, but that actually isn't the truth, and that's the crazy awesome thing about this line. It just gets better, wackier, and even more perfect. Let's keep counting them down. So apparently they couldn't get rid of this kit in Japan. I mean, they couldn't sell it, nobody was buying. And that is, to me, that blows my mind. This is a fantastic, ridiculously good kit. Honestly, I would have ran in there and bought 10 of it. At number 8, this is the high-grade Michaelis. So yeah, don't get distracted by the fact that this thing had poor sales, apparently. That's just because people didn't like the pilot Shattuck. The actual mobile suit itself is one of the best G-Witch kits out there. It's asymmetrical, it kicks ass, and this is the best Grassley kit of them all. Aesthetically, this does look fantastic, noble, and almost like a witch-hunting knight, which I assume that it is. It is asymmetrical with that beam bracer on the right-hand side, and a shield on the left. All of the Grassley trademarks are here. We've got those nice clear segments in the upper legs, some nice stickers here and there which actually highlight that nicely. The purple on white is quite similar to what we would have seen originally with the Beggar Beu, and overall this is the final evolution of the Grassley designs, both in universe as well as when it comes to the model kit. It is pretty much perfection. So when it comes to the accessories with this kit, this is definitely a non-standard loadout, so if you like something a little different from the usual Gundam loadout, this will be one for you. Similar to the Beggar Beu, this has arm-mounted weapons as well as a remote weapon. When it comes to the beam sabers, they're not standard beam sabers, they're actually arm-mounted. One can go into the beam bracer and the other into the shield on the other side, so it can dual wield without holding onto anything. Speaking of holding onto anything, it doesn't come with any alternate hands, which is a little bit of a letdown, but it does come with a bit of a stand for using with that beam bracer, so you're able to take that off, attach it via a wire, pop it onto the stand for this really cool remote use pose. The beam bracer really is the highlight of this kit when it comes to the accessories. You can have it on the arm closed up, have it on the arm opened up, or have it used as a remote use weapon. And on retrospect, this is very similar in design to the end of the Calibarn's rifle. It opens up and extends out in a similar kind of way. When it comes to the articulation, what can I say? It is perfect. You will get every pose you want out of it, and it is rock solid. Anything else I would really say about its articulation, I'd just be trying to fill space and talk more, like I'm doing right now. So there isn't really much point. It poses perfectly and looks epic in every pose. So yeah, when it comes to the Grassley suits, the pinnacle when it comes to gunpla is this right here, the high-grade Michaelis. It may or may not be on sale anymore, but whether this is full price, half price, quarter price, double price, it's still totally worth it. And I'm laughing about that because if you do find it cheap, don't let the price rebound. Grab it while you can. I once saw a bargain bin of master grade Gundam Spallos in Akihabara and just didn't buy it. Totally regret it. Still don't have a master grade Spallo. So from here on out, this is where the list really gets serious. I mean, the lines start to blur in here. It was so hard to choose what was better than which. These kits are absolute perfection. They're ridiculously good in every way. The best high grade and otherwise gunpla that has ever come out. So in a way, you could technically shuffle these around and, well, what position they're in and never quite be wrong. They're all so good. So from here on out, I just based it entirely on instinct. Then, facts. So at lucky number 7 is the high-grade Daryl Balde, the prodigal son, well, of mine, because I had it, then I lost it for about 6 months and I just found it the other day. This is a ridiculously cool kit, so I'll just throw it out the window straight away. The reason this isn't higher up the list or further up is just two simple things. The design is a little bit simpler than we'll see from some of the kits further up. We've got no real parts coming through from lower layers, and it is a little bit simpler with some seam lines running up some of the parts on it. On top of that, we do have a big massive sticker slapped right in the front of the face, Jiturk style, which does detract from it a little bit. If that was color separated, this would be shoulder to shoulder with what is up a bit higher. But visually, this is one of the most eye-catching, if not the most eye-catching design in the show. Up on my shelf, it's the first thing that, my eye sees. Throw its weapons into its hands, turn on a UV or black light, and this thing glows like nobody's business. This has a high contrast, Ipe Gyobyu design, and it just looks stupendous. It's a ridiculously cool design. It almost has an Evangelion kind of feel around the head, as well as that contrasting color scheme. This has taken the design aspects that made the Delancers quite cool, but slimmed it down into an over-the-top red mobile suit that Char Aznavour himself would be jaw-droppingly envious of. And if the looks of this absolute beast weren't enough, what comes inside of the box is ridiculous. In the lore and in the show, the Daryl Balde is one of the most over-the-top mecha. It can replace its forearms with different forearms. Those are around back, those are in the box, so you have so many choices. On top of that, we do have a widespread open hand, which is a bit of a rarity, and a premium addition in this line. When it comes to the swappable forearms we have in here, we have the normal ones with holding hands, which you can hold onto the weapons, the weapon being that massive spear, which can split in two and glows under blacklight. The other pair of forearms just emit beam sabers from the wrists, so it's just a pair of forearms with stabby ends. We have some awesome shoulder shields, which are massive, can be used as remote weapons, and this is one of those kits that will need the sole separate stand set in order to hold onto all of that ridiculous over-the-top arsenal. One stand is included though. At this point in the list, I think it's almost pointless to talk about the articulation and the build. The articulation and the build is absolutely perfect, and that goes for everything from here on out. It will destroy every pose. There is some mild limitations to Turk style based on the overly in the way crotch armor that stops the kicks up to the front, but besides that, it will do and destroy any pose, especially while in the air. So if what you're prioritizing when looking for a G-Witch kit is one with such massive shelf appeal, one that has a whole ton of options in the one box so you can keep changing it, fidget about with it every now and then on your desk, then this is the one for you. It has an over-the-top Ippei Gyobyu style too, so even if you're not really into traditional Gundam designs, this will be right up your alley. Standing guard in the 6th position is as high as the Jeturk Heavy Industries mobile suits get, and that is the absolutely stupendous high-grade Gundam Schwarzette. What we've got right here is the bastard child of the Daryl Balde we just saw and a Gundam, because it takes all the best aspects of both and smashes them together. The torso and the crotch unit are unashamedly Jeturk Heavy Industries style, so is the halo on the head, as well as the layout of the shell units in the upper legs and the shoulders. The hoof-like feet definitely have a bit of a leftover Delanza kind of feel, but the rest of it is completely Gundam. This is one of the greatest Gundam model kits of all time. What they've fit in here is ridiculous. I know this is just a bit of a breakdown video, so I don't want to go too deep into just why this is so awesome, but it is. We've got a stunning monochrome Gundam which has some nice pink splashes of color in the shell units. It's got a halo. The design of the head is so ridiculously detailed, it's one of the craziest head builds I have ever done, and that includes real grade kits, which are meant to be levels above high grade. This thing is drop dead gorgeous, and that is just the mobile suit itself. When it comes to the accessories in here, we've got one of the craziest weapons of all time, which is the Guardian system, based on the Guardian sheath, which looks like a big sword. I'll also mention before I start gushing about that, we do have a widespread hand in here as well, which everything from here on out doesn't have, so this one has those beat there. The Guardian system is ridiculous. It's a big old massive sword first, which can open up into a bunch of bits and a beam katana. These bits can then attach onto the mobile suit to basically become a set of wings that have 4 different styles of attachment. It is off the charts cool. The build is rock solid, the articulation, like I mentioned, there's really no point to me mentioning anymore, is perfect. And those hoof feet, ridiculous, I don't know. Honestly, I'm not sure what to say anymore. It's just so perfect, it's hard not to talk for hours about it. Treat yourself, get one, it is awesome. It is the best non-Venatus G-Witch kit out there. If you were ignoring the Venatus suits, this would be the best. Finally moving into the top 5, and this was the hardest decision for me to make out of everything. Out of all the kits and rearranging them and putting them in order, this was the hardest one. That was Gundam Aerial versus Gundam Aerial Rebuild. Both fantastic kits, both with slightly different pros and cons, but in the end, the Aerial won out. So at number 5, it's the Aerial Rebuild. Now the reason for this mainly is because of the iconic look of the original Aerial. Its look alone is enough to place it above this kit. It's also 400 yen cheaper, so it's about $10, making it very cheap if you're just getting into gunpla. But of course, there is a little less inside of the box. But we're not talking about the Aerial right now, we're talking about the Aerial Rebuild. This is the redesign of the Gundam Aerial with enough changes to make it look quite different. Apparently when the Aerial Rebuild was being redesigned, the whole point was to make the Aerial look a little bit more like a classic Gundam. So it does dull down the unique aspects of the Aerial a little bit. Overall, we've got a little bit more of a blockier design than what we would have seen. The detail is brought back a little bit, it doesn't have as many angles or layers, but it does come with a big old rocking set of wings. Now when these kits are as good as they are, it's hard for me to actually just cherry pick points about them in which to talk about to keep this brief, so I'm going to try. So when it does come to the pros and cons of this versus the standard Aerial, this will all be subjective and up to yourself. This one is a lot more predominantly blue up top, white down bottom with some blue feet. The angles have all been squared off a little bit, and the face has been changed quite a bit, and now I can't unsee that mouth. That looks like a mouth to me. I'm going to make sure everyone cannot unsee that right there in the muzzle looks like a mouth. Now you see it too. The biggest change is most definitely the wings around back. This is like the combination of the standard Aerial and the Mirasol flight unit, but the wings and the main body do gel together that much better in here. When it comes to the accessories, it's the standard Gundam loadout of sword, board, and beam rifle. It's just on crack. The beam sabers are standard enough, they're just a normal set of beam sabers. The board is the escutcheon, which is absolutely ridiculous, like it is with every Venatus mobile suit. It's a shield most of the time. It can split apart into bit staves that do require a bunch of sold separately stands, and they can all come together onto the aerial as the superpowered bit-on form. We do have a rifle in here as well, which is massive compared to the one we saw with the standard aerial, and the parts can attach onto that as well, so there are so many options. Once again, if you do want a kit that you can just pick up, change around, change its loadout just with what is inside of the box, this is one of those perfect kits. As you would expect from a flagship mobile suit, this is perfection incarnate. So the build is perfect, the articulation is perfect, this looks great in every pose, and the wings really do add to its overall look when it is in the air. The silhouette is gorgeous. This kit is gorgeous. This kit is perfect. And if you prefer the rebuild to the aerial, well, essentially there is more inside of the box, so go for that one.
Happy birthday to you.
So ascending now into the realm of Gundarium tier, and this is finally the top 3. And this right here is the one that started it all. It was the #1 first release when it came to the high-grade G-Witch kits, and it's also the one that started the goddamn confusion about the Rubris versus Elfrith, which still has no actual answer, so I'm sticking with Rubris. So you might be asking, what makes this better than the aerials? Well, to me, there's two things that make this a little bit better. One is that popping color scheme. When do you ever see a Gundam in hot pink? Hot pink with bunny ears. That is enough to get it at the top of the list. The other aspect is, it does actually have slightly better articulation. Mainly that's because it doesn't have shell units in its upper legs, so you do get full upper leg rotation. It also doesn't have any front skirting armor, which means you get better kicks out of it. So on the whole, it does just pose better, while looking better in that hot pink. The shell unit in the chest of this is absolutely incredible. It is all one piece. It holds on better than what we see with the aerial, where it can actually kind of pop out when you do put it in some poses, so it's a little bit more stable too. Pretty much everything we would have seen with the aerials is here too, because this was the prototype. Visually, like I mentioned, it is in hot pink with bunny ears, but on top of that we've got some great angles too. We do have some traditional thrusters on this as opposed to the venting we see on the more technologically advanced versions later on, and overall it just looks so cool. As this is the prototype to the aerial, this does come with a loadout which is pretty much identical, just a little bit lower tech. So we've got the same sword, board and beam rifle as well as a backpack. The beam sabers in here are standard. The beam rifle in here is one of the most unique looking rifles I have ever seen. This can be used with a big old weird wide open end. We've got a big long cool effect part for using with it, or you can use it with the escutcheon's bit on form. And speaking of the escutcheon, we do have options yet again. This can be used as a big shield. This is not the same as the one we would have seen with the aerial and the aerial rebuild. This is a little different and, to a degree, somewhat better? Simpler maybe. Like I mentioned, this can be used as a shield, it can also be used as bit staves once again, and it can also be used as a bit on form, which attaches together in a different kind of way than what we see on the aerial. Like I mentioned earlier on, the articulation is a little bit better than what we saw on the aerial due to the lack of limitations. Full upper leg swivel, and no skirting armor getting in the way of any kicks. So essentially, it is on the same tier as aerial itself, but depending on your own personal taste when it comes to Gundam model kits, this may or may not be the better choice. However, hot pink and bunny ears. They say bigger is better, and in this case, it is. This right here is the Full Mechanics 1100 Gundam Aerial. Now, if you know about gunpla, you know exactly what this is, but for those who don't, this is a completely different line compared to the high-grade kits. High-grade are 1/44th scale, so they're 144 times smaller than a Gundam would be in reality. This is 1/100th scale, meaning it's 100 times smaller, meaning it's a bigger kit. And in plain English, that means it stands at almost 8 inches or just over 17 centimeters. Whereas a standard high-grade kit would be more like 5.5 inches or so. And what that means in the end is that Bandai can pop in and cram in a lot more detail and features onto this than we could ever see in a high-grade, and that's not it. When this was coming out, I thought it would just be a scaled-up version of the high-grade, that it would just be a bigger high-grade. A lot of the time, that's what Full Mechanics 1100 is. But that is not what they did. If you put it side by side scaled up with the high grade, this looks nothing like it. It's sleeker, it's narrow, it's taller, and in a way, a little bit more like the aerial that we would have seen on screen. The plastic is of a completely different caliber as well. I wouldn't say better, I wouldn't say worse, but it is shinier and kind of catches the light nicer. If you pop this up on a shelf beside the standard aerial, I would say if you had to make people choose which one is better, they're automatically gonna go for the bigger one. If there is one thing that is better about the high grade compared to the Full Mechanics in my opinion, is the fact that the shell units pop more in the high grade variants. But what we've got here is actual shiny chrome red parts deep inside of the kit, which in a way is pretty cool. So if you're a Master Grade aficionado, or however you say that word, and you're like, God damn it, I'm not buying a non-Master Grade 1/100 kit, well this might be the one that will change your mind. It just kind of feels like Master Grade Light. We've gotten Master Grade Extreme recently, which is a over-the-top feature-packed version of Master Grade. This feels like the opposite. It's a feature-removed version of Master Grade, but it still does everything a Master Grade does on the surface. It looks perfect, poses perfect, and pretty much is perfect. When it comes to the accessories in here, it's pretty much what we would have seen with the high grade. It's the sword, board, and beam rifle, but you might be wondering what are all those little bits too? So one of my biggest complaints with a lot of the high grades is not a lot of options when it comes to hands. You've got those kind of fists with the holes all of the time, which kind of gives them a bit of a Lego man kind of feel, not very premium. This kit comes with essentially what we see in Master Grades these days. You can swap out the fingers so you have a whole bunch of different hand options. Relaxed hands, fists, holding hands, and hands for holding the beam rifle. Everything we would have seen with the high grade is here too, so we've got beam sabers but with nice flat beams which look unique. We've got the beam rifle once again doing everything the beam rifle did before. That means you can use it as a beam rifle for long range shooting. We also do have a beam effect like we saw with the high grade, but this is a little longer and a little bit more sword-like, and when it does come to the escutcheon, it does all the same things we would have seen before, but now with nicer color separation. This kit is fully color separated. It doesn't require any stickers, any painting, anything like that. You've got a perfect representation of Ariel right out of box. Even though I didn't use them in the review or on my kit, you do get decals too, which will add some extra detail all over the surface. I just don't really use those because they can look a little obvious when they are attached. Personally, I'm holding out for water slides. When it comes to the articulation, this is pretty much what we saw with the high grade. The only real limitations once again are the upper leg rotation as well as the kicks up to the front. Besides that, you will get all the poses you want out of it, especially in the upper body. Now, I will mention that size does come with a little bit of a downside. I have noticed over time it has loosened up a little bit compared to the high grade, so it does feel a little bit wobbly. Totally worth keeping in mind, and a fine trade-off in my opinion for that absolutely massive size. So yeah, once again, if you do want to know more about this particular kit, want to know how it fares up against the high grade and whether you want the big one or the small one, you can go check out my full mechanics Gundam Ariel review. Now, onto the number 1 spot. So finally now into the final position and the number 1 Witch from Mercury kit is the high grade Gundam Caliban. Now this kit right here doesn't just get the crown for the best G-Witch kit in existence, this also gets the scepter for the greatest high grade kit in existence. This thing is the pinnacle of high grade and G-Witch technology. This takes everything that the absolutely awesome high grade Rubris, Ariel and Ariel Rebuild did right and builds on top of them. Clad completely in white armor with some red highlights, this definitely harkens back to one of the most all-time iconic Gundam suits, the Gundam Unicorn. On top of that, the shell units and the V-fin on this kit are in a metallic pearlescent rainbow color, which is absolutely off the charts awesome, but, and I have to throw this minor complaint in, it would have been nice to get the red permit in here too. But besides that, this is absolutely stupendously cool. The overall silhouette is ridiculous. It's sleek, it's awesome. It mashes all the best elements of all the Venatus suits together. The Ariel, being based on Ariel from the Tempest, is meant to be feminine. This is based on Caliban, which gives it a bit more of a masculine flair. It's wider, it's bulkier, and it's a lot more squared off than we would have seen with the Ariel. And if that was not cool enough, this is a Gundam. This is a mecha. This is a model kit mecha that comes with a broom. This actually puts the witch in the Witch from Mercury. That is such an awesome thing. When it comes to the accessories in here, it's pretty much what we would have seen before, except now with added broomage. So in here we get the beam sabers, Ariel's escutcheon, that broom, some optional shell unit parts, as well as a stand. The beam sabers are pretty much what we would have seen before, can be stored on the backpack. The escutcheon is exactly the same as what we would have seen with Ariel, except this time it's clad in white, just like the mobile suit itself. This can do everything we saw before, be used as a shield, be used as bit staves flying around on sold separately stands, or attach onto the Caliban as the bit on form, adding to that already awesome bulk. The optional core units in here can be used to display this with its permit off. Sadly, once again, we do not have any optional widespread hands. And of course, the crown jewel of this absolute king of a suit is that broom. This attaches onto the shoulder perfectly. Everything about it is so smooth and perfect. You'd think a big old weapon like this would be awkward. Doesn't make the kit back heavy, doesn't make it fall backwards, doesn't make it awkward, and it's easy to pose. The back can open up in that broom type of fashion. We've got some moving handles and it just works so smoothly. This is the perfect kit. It also has a stand so you can pose this up in the air where it needs to be. The articulation and the build of this kit is exactly the same as what we would have seen with the Rubris and Ariel, etc. That means it is rock solid, it is a flagship suit, so Bandai put all their tech, all their everything into this to make sure it is perfect. It poses perfectly, it's rock solid. What can I say? This is sheer gunpla perfection. So that right there is it for the list, and that was for me one of the most enjoyable line of gunpla I have ever built, and I am so sad to see it be finished, but I'm still super excited to see what Bandai does next. Every single one of the high grade kits is pretty much perfect. The full mechanics is perfect too. Everything about this line was such an absolute magical joy. As usual with one of these lists, make sure to drop your ranking list down there in the comments. Whether you built 1 kit, 5 kits, didn't build any, if it's your wish list, just drop it down there. Which ones did you think were the best? Maybe this question might pop up at some point, but no, I didn't put in the Figurized Suletta and the Miorine. Those are great kits, by the way. They just weren't Mecha model kits, so they weren't included. The Tik Balang, Demi Trainer option set, and the Mira Soul flight unit, they were only option kits, so they weren't on it either. Anyway, if you're looking for some kits to buy, hopefully you found something that will suit you in this list for your next purchase. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more gunpla content, and I'll see you next time. Once again, this video right here, and none of these videos would be possible without each and every single one of you guys who watches my videos, and special thanks to those of you who are supporting me over on Patreon and here on the channel memberships, including 10 Soldier YT, Caleb Engelhart, Dashil Marmion, Go Little Rockstar, Joe, Lauren Seahack, Org59061, and Van Fawn.